Observe them, these loyal subjects gathered in the grand divan, their eyes fixed on the man upon the golden throne. His voice, they believe, is the thunderclap that shakes the very foundations of this empire. A word, a nod, and lives are extinguished, fortunes forged. Such is the spectacle, such is the illusion. They say the Sultan's word is law. They are fools. For I, who have lingered behind these very pillars for centuries, know the truth. Some words are but echoes, faint whispers, carried on a silken breeze from a hand unseen. This vast, magnificent stage, adorned with jewels and the bloodline of 1,000 years, is but a gilded cage. The Sultan, a puppet, albeit a gilded one, dancing to a rhythm he does not compose. His reign, a performance, his power, a reflection. Watch closely, a breath of wind, a ripple in the heavy silence. A silk handkerchief, white as a fresh lie, slips from a courtier's grasp. It falls, unnoticed by all save one. A flicker of a slippered foot, barely visible beneath the embroidered hem of a lady's gown, nudges it. Just so. The courtier, whose fate was sealed moments before this fall, now finds himself elevated. Or condemned. A minor detail, perhaps, a whim, or a carefully orchestrated whisper, enacted without sound. This is the true pulse of the dynasty, not the roar of battle, nor the Sultan's grand pronouncements, but the subtle shift of shadow, the silent turning of the tide. Poison need not always be in a goblet. Sometimes it is merely the absence of a word, a gesture withheld, a betrayal so quiet it echoes only in the mind of the one who orchestrated it. You see, nothing, especially power, is truly as it seems. It is a labyrinth of mirrors, where the hand pulling the strings is always hidden. Nobody was supposed to hear this. They saw the Sultan on his golden throne, a formidable lion, its roar echoing across the known world. But from this vantage, behind these ancient silent stones, I saw the true architect of power. She did not command legions. Her battlefield was the human heart, her weapons whispers, her armor a serene smile. She understood the fragile, desperate architecture of the soul. A woman, newly arrived, trembling with ambition. A eunuch, loyal to none but himself, yearning for influence. A minister, his power base crumbling, desperate for a lifeline. She saw them all, not as individuals but as threads. And she, my dear, was the weaver. Observe her movement. Not the heavy tread of a ruler, but the soft, insidious glide of silk. Her eyes, ever watchful, absorbed every flicker of fear, every glint of naked desire. A kind word here, a subtle favor there, a promise breathed into the quiet of a garden. She cultivated loyalty not through brute force, but through a deeper, more insidious bond, dependency. She became the silent answer to unspoken prayers, the unseen remover of obstacles, a true sculptor of souls, turning vulnerability into leverage, ambition into her personal weapon. Her network grew, unseen, unheard. The lowest scullery maid, overhearing a servant's complaint, the Grand Vizier's trusted scribe copying a seemingly innocuous letter, the Sultan's own chamberlain reporting on a mood, a passing thought, a dream. Each piece, a fragment of the grand mosaic, flowed back to her. And she, with chilling precision, assembled the truth, or rather, her truth. Information in her hands was not mere fact. It was clay. She molded it, shaped it, imbued it with new meaning. A rival's innocent remark became an act of insolence. A momentary lapse in judgment proof of disloyalty. She fed these narratives not with a roar, but with a steady, relentless drip of suggestion, until the Sultan himself believed he had conceived the idea, reached the conclusion, issued the decree. His voice, her will, his hand, her shadow. His very dynasty, unknowingly steered by her unseen hand. Consider the ritual then, the opulent chambers, air thick with jasmine and impending dread. A rival, perhaps a concubine too favoured, a relative too ambitious, would be summoned. Not for confrontation, never that, but for a seemingly cordial visit. The pleasantries exchanged, the smiles, the superficial warmth. Then the serving of sherbet, a silver tray glistening with dew, the crystal cup brimming with a drink sweet as a spring dream. She would offer it herself, her fingers brushing the rivals, a gesture of friendship, of shared trust. But this sweetness, my dear, was a mask. For in that cup, in that moment of shared intimacy, was the bitter truth of her power. It was an unspoken contract. Drink it and acknowledge her dominion. Refuse it and invite a fate far colder than any poison. The sherbet was not a threat, it was a demonstration. A quiet, elegant assertion that she knew everything. That her influence permeated the very air you breathed, the very sugar on your tongue. A subtle betrayal, a taste of her control. This was how a bloodline was truly secured, not with steel and open warfare, but with silk and silence in the gilded corridors. With patience that could outlast empires, and an understanding of the human heart so profound, it was almost supernatural. She did not need to be seen on the throne to rule, she was the throne. The silent architect of a power that extended beyond the Sultan's reach, beyond his very consciousness. Her reign was forged in the quiet darkness, an empire woven from whispers, binding all to her will, thread by invisible thread. The whispers began not when she ascended, but when she truly began to rule. A faint rustle, like the silk of a discarded gown, carrying the scent of something far more potent than perfume. Power, my dear ladies, is not a garment one simply dons. It is a beast constantly fed, constantly demanding. And its hunger is insatiable. You saw her rise, did you not? The ascent from obscurity, the careful navigation of 1,000 poisoned glances. But the true game, the real game, began when she held the reins, though no one saw her hand. It was then, in these very chambers, behind walls that echoed only silence, that the darkest choices were forged. The air here, once merely still, grew heavy with the unspoken weight of decisions made in absolute silence. To secure a bloodline, to carve a destiny from the unforgiving stone of a dynasty, what price would you pay? What would you sacrifice? For her, the answer was absolute. The enemies of the Sultan? They fell, yes. A casual brush of a hand, a subtle redirection of a royal decree, and their fortunes crumbled like ancient masonry. Their demise, though swift, was often public, a necessary display. But it was not merely the declared enemies who tasted the bitter draught of her will. Consider the loyal servant, perhaps too close to a truth that could unravel everything, or the ambitious courtier, whose growing influence, though outwardly harmless, threatened the delicate balance of her unseen control. Even a distant cousin, a potential rival to her sons, whose sudden convenient illness sent shivers through the palace. One morning, a cup of spiced wine offered with a smile, Another, a seemingly accidental fall down a shadowed stairwell. These were not mere misfortunes. They were silent departures, each one a thread cut from the vibrant tapestry of the court, leaving a gaping, unnoticed void. Such brutal consequences, veiled in silk and silence, ensured her precarious position. Was it cold ambition that drove her, a consuming personal craving for dominion? Or the desperate, primal instinct of a mother protecting her young in a viper's nest, a fight for sheer survival? Perhaps it was a cold, calculated strategy for the very future of the dynasty itself. The profound moral ambiguity clung to her like a second skin, woven from the same threads of silk and shadow that adorned her. She traded lives for influence, pacts for power. A broken seal on a hidden missive, its wax still warm, revealing terms whispered in the darkest hours. A single name exchanged for a decade of stability, a secret allegiance forged in betrayals. Each beat of the palace drum, a silent consequence. Each rustle of the Sultan's robe, a reminder of the precariousness of her throne, built not on gold, but on the quiet screams of those who stood in her way. The crown, you see, demands its due, in blood and silence. The Sultan's chambers were but one stage for the dance of power. A grand theatre, yes, but often a predictable one. Yet beneath the gilded ceilings, beyond the watchful eyes of the royal guard, lay a realm far more intricate, a labyrinth woven from silk and ambition, where the true architects of this dynasty often resided. This was the harem, a world within a world, teeming with its own silent struggles, its own brutal victories. Do you truly believe the battlefield was confined to the men with their sabers and their armies? Oh, my dear, how naive! The grandest wars were waged not with steel but with whispers, not with brute force, but with a gaze that could promise alliance or herald utter ruin. Here, in the scented air of the palace, the shadows stretched long and deep, concealing ambitions as sharp as any blade. She, the woman who commanded the Sultan's ear, understood this better than anyone. Her shadow rule was not unchallenged. Other queens resided within these walls, women born of noble houses, mothers to princes, their own bloodlines entwined with the very fabric of the empire. They too knew the unseen rules, the delicate balance of power that shifted with every moon. They were masters of their own subtle warfare, their strategies honed by generations of quiet desperation. Watch them. Observe the court, the procession of faces. A casual compliment, a seemingly innocuous gift. Each held a hidden meaning, a potential for either favor or a poisoned sting. An alliance could be forged with a knowing glance across a crowded courtyard, a fragile pact sealed in the shared silence of understanding. Yet that very same glance, when misinterpreted or betrayed, could shatter a reputation beyond repair, leaving a woman vulnerable, exposed, a target. A single rumor, carried on the breath of a trusted eunuch, could unravel years of meticulous cultivation. A well-placed word in the ear of a servant, whispering doubt or fabricating loyalty, could turn the fortunes of an entire family, elevating one to dizzying heights, casting another into the abyss of disgrace. This was not a game for the faint of heart. This was about survival, about securing a future for their sons, about carving out a sliver of influence in a world designed to deny them any. Every move was calculated, every smile a potential mask, every sigh a coded message. The The stakes? The very existence of their bloodline, the right to breathe, to exist, to protect the fragile lives they had brought forth. Poison was not always a concoction in a cup. It could be the slow drip of isolation, the sudden absence of favor, the icy silence that enveloped a once cherished name. Remember that. For in this serpentine dance, where the stakes were so profoundly personal, the cost of losing was absolute. The cool marble floor, so often witness to opulence, also bore the silent weight of discarded triumphs, of fallen queens. A discarded jewel, perhaps, from a rival whose influence had withered, still sparkling with a faint, residual venom, a forgotten testament to a battle won or lost. The dust motes still dance in the sunbeams, even now, in the chamber where her power once pulsed like a second heart. An empty throne, perhaps. A profound silence where her voice once spun webs of destiny. But do not be deceived, my friends. Do not let the quiet fool you into thinking the storm has passed. For the deepest currents run unseen, and a true ruler's legacy is rarely etched in stone, but rather in the very air the living breathe. She is gone, yes. Her body returned to the earth, her jewels scattered among her chosen few. But the Sultan? Look closely at him. Observe the subtle shift in his posture, the quiet calculation in his eyes as he presides over his court. He believes himself absolute, the master of his domain, the architect of every decree. Yet, watch the flicker of his hand, the way he leans on certain advisors, the sudden, inexplicable fall of a minister. Do you not see it? He walks the paths she paved, unknowingly echoing her strategies, mimicking her subtle gestures, making her choices his own. The framework she built, invisible yet unbreakable, has become the very foundation of this dynasty. The delicate, deadly art of manipulation, once her secret weapon, is now the expected language of the court. The whispers of betrayal, the silent promise of a swift end for any who stray, these were her lessons. She taught them how to play the game, how to weave power from threads of silk and fear, how to silence dissent with the quiet efficiency of poison. These methods, once radical, are now the norm, ingrained in the very fabric of governance. The bloodline itself has absorbed her teachings, each successive heir born into a world shaped by her unseen hand. The profound question lingers: does true power ever truly die? Or does it simply transform, shedding its physical form to become a spectral hand, guiding future generations from the deepest shadow? This empty chamber, this vast silence, yet every decision made within these gilded walls still feels the palpable weight of her unseen presence. Every ambition whispered, every plot conceived, every life extinguished or elevated, carries the indelible mark of her will. She is the ghost in the machine, the lingering echo that ensures this dynasty, forever changed, dances to a rhythm only she truly composed. And in that chilling realization lies her ultimate, terrifying victory.